Hello, I'm Dean Kay for Audix Microphones. Welcome to the DP Quad mic video.
These are the 4 essential microphones you need to cover most basic drum miking situations, whether you're performing live or in the studio. Inside the DP Quad microphone pack, you'll find a D6 for the kick drum, an I5 for the snare drum, and 2 ADX51 condensers for overheads. These 4 mics are the drum mic survival kit. You don't want to gig without them.
To help us maximize the benefits of the DP Quad mic kit, we've enlisted the help of our friend, session drummer and clinician, star of stage and screen, Mike Snyder. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Dean. It's really nice to be here at Audix again and talking microphones.
We had a good time last time doing the how to choose a drum mic video and how to find the right microphone to mic individual drums. We covered the entire kit and maximized our control with the Audix microphones. Now with the DP Quad, we're looking at a little different scenario. It's really the minimum amount of microphones that you need to cover your drums in most situations.
Yeah, it actually is. What's great about it is, drummers are kind of tweaky about their sounds. They really love sound and are picky about their cymbals and heads and tunings and drums and blah, blah, blah. But the next aspect behind that to control your sound is to control the microphones that are used to either record you or used for sound reinforcement. And this pack really fits that bill because it's the minimum number of mics you need to amplify or record your sound.
And it's easy, economical. You don't want to go anywhere without them, especially to the club where you don't know what you're going to confront.
Yes, you don't. I've been accosted many times with a mic that looks like they've actually done some construction with. It's amazing. And they were heading for my bass drum with a mic that I would never in a million years put on a kick drum. And so then I would stop and go, oh, hey, why don't you try this? And a lot of times the front of house guy will go, hey, awesome, yeah, I'd love to try that. So yeah, you kind of go up a notch. So
yeah, you'll sound good, and he'll kind of go, okay, I can make this drummer sound good on stage with this DP Quad. So I'd imagine though, with a minimum amount of mics, it's going to be pretty critical where you place them on the drum kit.
It is. It's placement is critical, and placement is dependent on the style of music you're going to play. If I'm playing, a more open jazz or ECM or fusion-y kind of style music, I'm going to place them differently than I do if I'm playing like a groove-oriented genre of music, because that's very hi-hat, snare, and kick-oriented.
Sure.
And those other styles are very complete drum kit-oriented. Yeah.
So let's go around the kit and look at places to put your microphones to get the best sound.
Right on.
Let's talk about where to place these microphones using the DP Quad miking technique. Let's start with the D6 on the kick drum. The D6 is becoming legendary for its custom-tailored kick drum sound. Place this mic correctly in the kick drum, and you don't really have to do much EQ adjusting on the mixing board. The sound is pretty much ready to go.
The Audix D6 is a great mic for the kick. Placement is pretty easy. I've covered this quite extensively in the How to Mic a Drum Kit set of videos. If you haven't seen those, you should go back and look at them. A lot more in-depth information about the subtleties of miking a kick drum. But here's a basic recap. Because of the D6's inline design, it's really easy to get through my hole in the front of the bass drum. Now, I'm going to use 2 positions when miking the bass drum. If the mic is pointed towards the beater, I'm going to obviously capture more of the impact of the beater. I'm going to use that for styles of music, rock, funk, and the like, that rely on the bottom end of the kick as to drive the feel. If I want a little more round sound out of the bass drum, less impact and more drum tone, I'm actually just going to flip the mic around and point it away from the beater, more towards the edge of the head and the shell of the drum. So, it's a great inline design, makes it easy to get it in there. It's that simple. Now you notice that I have taken the cord and used one of the wing nuts on the stand to make sure that it in no way can ever touch the head, because that rattling will be picked up and it's not a really pleasant sound. If you're using a bass drum that's not ported, it's really simple to mic that drum also. I'm basically going to take it, and a lot of the tone will come from 1/3 to 2/3 of the way out in this area, and I'm just going to place the mic straight on to the head, about 2 fingers width away from the head. It's that simple. Now, if this doesn't get you a sound that you like, if it's a little too round, a little too boomy, Alternatively, you can actually take the mic onto the other side and at a 45-degree angle, just point it towards the beater and the head, and you'll get a great sound. Like, I know Stanton Moore does that all the time because he plays unported heads.
The next microphone in the DP Quad Pack is the i5. This is a true multi-use microphone. It sounds great on many instruments, guitar amps, congas, percussion, toms, but for the DP Quad mic setup, you'll want to use it on the snare drum.
With the DP Quad Pack, we're going to use the i5 to mic the snare drum. Now, in the previous drum miking videos, I've spoken about using two mics to mic the snare drum, both top and bottom. In this instance, since we have a snare drum mic, we're going to use it to mic the top of the snare drum and use the mic placement to enhance the color of the sound that we want to come out. So there's essentially two mic placements that you can use, and each will enhance a different aspect of what the drum sounds like. If you take the mic and place it more towards the rim, essentially it's pointing towards the edge of the drum where all the ring or the overtones are predominant, you're going to get more open sounding drum and less fundamental and more of the overtones. It's a lot whinier. Now, if I position the mic towards the center of the drum, where most of the fundamental pitch originates, it's going to have a fatter sound, and I'm going to use that sound if I'm playing more rock or funk-oriented music, because I want the impact of the snare drum on 2 and 4. Okay. Now you can see that the mic is pointed towards the center of the drum, as opposed to being pointed towards the edge of the drum, and it's going to get a little more fundamental pitch. Of course, you can use any variation or any type of placement in between those two placements to really make subtle changes in the tonal character of your drum that you're reproducing. One of the beautiful things about using a D6 and an i5 in tandem on the kick and the snare is one picks up where the other one leaves off. By that I mean there are no conflicting frequencies. They're pre-EQ'd right out of the box, the way most front of house guys or recording engineers would EQ the kick and the snare. It makes it real simple. They work together incredibly well.
Okay, the kick and snare mics are in position and sounding great. Now we have our two condenser mics to get the rest of the kit in the mix. Here is where people sometimes get confused. There are many schools of thought on where to put the overhead mics, and it gets even more confusing because different situations might call for a different approach. Here's Mike Snyder to sort us out.
You get two ADX 51s in the DP Quad Pack. We're incorporating them as stereo overheads, essentially, in this 4 miking technique. Now, placement of the stereo mics differs depending on the environment you're in, whether it's a recording or live, or what style of music, as well as stage volume and the type of sound you want to get out of your drum set. So let's talk about the different ways we can utilize the stereo mics to pick up the entire drum kit. There are 2 slider switches on the ADX 51. The one on the right is a low frequency roll-off. When it's engaged, frequencies from 150 hertz on down are gradually rolled off or made quieter as you go lower in the frequency spectrum. For live applications, I always engage this because there's a lot of squirrely low end rolling around on a stage. When you're recording, you may or may not engage the switch. You have to basically determine that for yourself as to the sound you're getting. The switch on the left is a 10 dB pad. When it's selected, it makes the microphone less sensitive. If you play really loud, you're going to want to have the 10 dB pad engaged. In live situations, I almost always will have the 10 dB pad engaged. In recording situations, if it's not a really loud style of music, I may choose to have the 10 dB pad turned off. This first overhead position is really suitable when you want to pick up the entire drum set. You want a complete drum sound. You want to hear the toms, you want to hear the cymbals, you want to hear everything in as a complete kit. You're not focusing on any one particular part of the drum set. And you notice they're pretty far away. They're up pretty high. I use this position a lot for for jazz and for fusion setups. And generally on stages that are not very loud, because in this position, you're more apt to pick up more of what's going on around you too. The loud guitar player, your monitors, the bass player, everything is going to come back into the mic. You're going to get more bleed. The one thing to look out for when you're placing mics this way is you want to make sure they're equidistant from the center of the snare drum. And this will help, one, center the snare drum in the mix, and also do away with any phasing issues between the microphones. So what I'm taking is a mic cord, placing one side in the middle of the snare drum, and just using it as a measuring stick. And you can see they're pretty close. That's the trick. Here's a quick example of the DP Quad Pack with a high stereo field. In this position, I think there's no roll-off filter, and there is no pad set. I've pulled the overheads down a little closer. In this position, they're picking up the cymbals, essentially, and rejecting the toms a little bit. I'm pointing the mic towards the cymbal that I think is the quietest cymbal, in this case, the ride cymbal. Over here, I'm splitting this mic between the crash and the hi-hat. This mic position rejects a lot of stage volume. I use it for live a lot. Here's a little quick example of this mic position. You'll notice that you're going to hear a little more cymbals and less the toms than the last position. Using the DP Quad Pack, I'm utilizing a single or mono overhead mic to mic the overall drum set, and then using the second condenser mic, ADX51, to mic the hi-hat. I'm going to use this mic setup for styles of music that are more kick, snare, and hat based, rock, funk, and the like. Here's a little bit of an example of this mic setup. I'm using the ADX51s in this setup in what we call an XY pattern. This is the most complex setup for overheads that we've discussed. Honestly, I'm probably not going to use this in a live environment because it really is picking up everything around the drums as well as the drums itself. What's really wonderful about this setup, though, if you notice, I'm going to sit down and it's really just above my head. So what I'm hearing in my ears, the mics are going to pick up. So I can self-regulate the drum set as far as mix is concerned. What I hear is what it's going to pick up. Also, this XY pattern will pick up really everything very evenly, even more evenly than overheads in a stereo position above the drum set. So slightly behind me in an XY pattern. Whereas the other overhead positions we've talked about are great for both live and recording, this XY position is really what you're going to use to record yourself in a quiet environment. So you're getting ready to do your next, hopefully viral YouTube video, pretty much the mic position you might try using.
Okay, now let's have a quick review of the 4 overhead drum miking positions that Mike has shown us. Overhead position 1 uses high stereo overhead mics placed about 3 feet above the cymbals. This position provides a balanced stereo sound with a good blend of cymbals and toms, and is recommended for quieter stages because the high overhead microphones will pick up loud nearby stage sounds, such as guitar and bass amps. Overhead position 2 places the stereo overheads closer to the drums, about 2 feet above the cymbals, and pointed directly at the ride and hi-hat. This position also provides a balanced stereo sound with greater control of the ride, hi-hat, and other cymbals, and is recommended for louder stages. Overhead position 3 uses just one overhead condenser for a mono overhead about 3 feet above the snare, which will pick up the entire kit, and uses the other condenser just for the hi-hat, 3 to 4 inches above the hi-hat facing away from the kit at a 30 to 45 degree angle. This position greatly reduces the chance of having any phase issues with your drum sound, and features excellent control of the hi-hat, which is perfect for kick, snare, hi-hat grooves on a loud stage. Our final overhead position uses the XY stereo pattern. Place the mic capsules very close but not touching at a 90 degree angle, and try to point them at the hi-hat and ride. Put the mics about 1 to 2 feet above and just behind the drummer's head. Drum kits tend to shake the stage a bit, so don't put the mics too close together or they'll knock against each other, which is not a good sound. This is a more accurate miking position and will pick up what the drummer hears. It features the best blend of the full drum kit and is recommended for recording the drums in the studio.
So there you have it. You mic up the entire drum set with only 4 mics with the DP Quad miking system. And you only use 4 channels in the club as well.
Yeah, a lot of times you go into a club and they'll have 4 channels. They won't have more than that. You get a big band and a small board, you can be limited in what you could do. And the DP Quad Pack will fill that bill and let you take control of your sound.
It's easy to set up. You showed us some easy ways to get a great sound out of the box. Let's face it, sometimes you go into that club, they may not have microphones for you.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So bring your mics, you're in control of the sound, and the sound guy's going to like you because you're bringing in great gear to help you and him sound better.
Mike Snyder, thanks for your expertise and wisdom. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
I'm Dean Kay for Audix Microphones. Thanks for watching.
And I'm not.